Hi there, it's Kevin with GatheringMagic.com here with a wrap-up video for playing on a budget with the green-red blitz, hexproof, whatever you want to call this deck. Performed pretty well with a 3-1 finish, can't complain about that. Of course, the match we lost is an 8-man queue where it counted, but the other 2-man queues we were able to pull off a 3-0 record, which is pretty impressive. And we got to face a variety of decks through the mono black control, Maze's Zen control, and Azorius control, and then we lost the blitz decks, which probably is our easiest matchup out of the three. So really liking this deck. I think it's got some good potential. Now, I talked about Act of Treason. I definitely think Act of Treason is a card to consider, as that would have completely destroyed the... It's good against monsters, and it's good against the like RG monsters and black-green Dredge. Very good against that, as well as you can take a Night Howler, which would be huge. And very, very big against a Desecration Demon, as you can take their Desecration Demon and smack them with it. And it usually is the perfect turn, too, because you could go like first turn, either Gladecover Scout or the Experiment 1 into a Kalonian Tusker, and then, or more like actually turn 5, and then it's turn 4, they drop the Desecration Demon, your turn 5, you Act of Treason it and kill them. And usually by that time you could have mana for casting another spell as well. So cards that I think we're running a little too many pumps in here. I don't know if I'd cut the Aspect of Hydras. I liked them every time I saw them, but didn't get to see Armed and Dangerous. I think that the reason why this card's really in here is because my love for this card, not really that it's that impressive. We didn't really get to see the hexproof draws come into play either. Like when I was testing this deck and went Gladecover Scout into Madcap Skills, that draw happened a lot. Or even better, Gladecover Scout into Burning-Tree Emissary Madcap Skills, and then Armed and Dangerous. You hook up an Armed and Dangerous, or Armed, and then like Ghor-Clan Rampager, this combo on turn 4, and it's just a win. It's like the Boros Charm. This is your version of Boros Charm. In Hexproof, that's usually what they use, the Boros Charm. The thing about with the Nylea Hexproof deck is they could actually use the Boros Charm to do direct damage, which came into play a lot, and make their stuff indestructible, which again came into play a lot versus Supreme Verdict. So Armed Dangerous not quite as good as Boros Charm, but it can in certain scenarios actually be more powerful, as that +1/+1 is an extra 2 damage with the double strike, whereas Boros Charm does not give them an extra 2 damage. So all in all, though, this deck performed pretty well for a budget deck. I don't know exactly any additions, subtractions I would do to this deck. I don't think Xenagos, I was talking about Xenagos earlier, I don't really think Xenagos fits the greatest in this. Xenagos God of Revels, or sorry, Xenagos, yeah, the God of Revels. Although it does have good synergy with both Armed and Dangerous and with Madcap Skills. So maybe as a one-of, but again, then I would suggest going up to like 21, 22, 23 lands, and then it really just changes the whole feel of this deck, where you want like Elvish Mystics, not Experiment 1s. But yeah, and sad news is most of this deck, the majority of this deck is going away post-rotation. We lose the Tuskers. We lose the Wild Beastmaster, which I don't know how I feel about this card. I really want it. Again, I think I just want this card to actually be good rather than actually being good. So if I was to probably take this to a major tournament, I'd cut it. But again, I'm more of a Johnny than a Spike player. I'm actually more of a Timmy at times. I get attached to cards, and I really feel good when they actually work at their full potential. So the times the Wild Beastmaster actually gets hooked up with a Madcap Skills and I can somehow keep it alive are just the reasons why I play Magic a lot of times. So forgive me for using subpar cards every now and again, as that's probably what Wild Beastmaster is. Again, Aspect of Hydra Wild Beastmaster is just a blowout, but I don't think this deck needs a blowout. It just needs incremental damage, and it has plenty of blowouts besides Wild Beastmaster. Like the Madcap Skills Ghor-Clan Rampager strategy is a lot more consistent than Wild Beastmaster. But all in all, again, the good news is, though, we have some cards that are sticking around. We still have the ordeal of Perforos, which isn't too bad. It's not nearly as good as Madcap Skills, as the being blocked by 2 or more creatures comes into play so much in a standard where you're 1-for-1ing all day. And Ordeal of Perforos, I'll bring up Ordeal. Ordeal of Perforos can get up to 3 damage, get up to a 3/3, gives actually +1/+1 counters, and when you sacrifice it, does 3 damage to a creature player. So I definitely think it's a card that could go in here post-rotation if you do decide to make a deck like this. But we lose Gladecover Scout as well. And Ordeal Perforos, you could actually justify putting this in the deck. If you are going to be putting Ordeal Perforos, though, I'd take out Ghor-Clan Rampagers or Flesh Blood, as they are really fighting for that space. But again, this is a decent card on Hexproof, because eventually your Gladecover Scout will get the +3/+3. It won't be something they can Detention Sphere later on or Deicide later on, and you get an extra 3 damage out of it. So if you want to mess around with Ordeal Perforos, definitely let me know how it works for you, because again, it could work very good with Bassara Tower Archer. Now, we don't know if Gladecover Scout is going to be reprinted or not, or a card much like it in green as another Hexproof. We lose Witchstalker as well, which is rough. So, I mean, these are the cards we're losing. These are the cards we're keeping. But this red-green archetype pretty much is sticking around. I mean, Experiment 1 is going, but Elvish Mystic is still been spoiled. Reverent Hunter we still keep. We still keep Boon Satyr. So it's about 50-50. And it depends on the replacements for this deck. Again, Ordeal Perforos can replace Madcap Skills. We need a good 1-drop to replace the Experiment 1 and the Gladecover Scouts. The Flesh Blood, Armed and Dangerous, also rotate. And Stomping Grounds, which is going to be huge, rotates. So, don't know how playable this will be. But the other guts, like Ranger's Guile, will most likely still be printed. But we have Mortal Resolve. And Act of Treason, I guarantee there will be a version of Act of Treason in M15. And we already have a forecasting cost one. And there is already some juicy green-red cards that don't see much play right now, like Fanatica Xenagos. It could easily replace some cards in this list as well. So looking forward, I think this strategy is pretty much safe post-rotation, depending on what we get, depending on what the next set is going to be like. So I would feel free to start investing in some of these cards. They're really, really low. Like, what would we say, like $250 for Boon Satyrs? And these are bulk rares with the Reverent Hunters. And everything else, yeah, like Temple of Abandons are really low right now too. So I think going into green-red strategy, if you are worried about rotation, is something that you could definitely feel good about doing. It seems to have all the pieces needed come rotation. So I hope you enjoyed this deck. I thought it was a lot of fun. Again, the last few decks have been very similar. I'm going to try to switch it up. I've got some pretty fun decks. I'm going to go ahead and revisit the Angelic Accord, the one that puts in 4/4 Angels. I recorded a bunch of video when I was on vacation at Lake Powell, but unfortunately I'm like the most terrible cameraman, so I don't know if we're going to scrap those videos. But I have true budget decks as well, rather than these $100 budget decks. That, what I mean by true budget is, we do a thing at my local game store that only utilizes cards that are commons and uncommons. So it's kind of like a peasant format, but no restriction on how many uncommons you can use. And I've built, I believe, 4 decks. And one of them is just basically a black-red aggro deck, which isn't very flavorful. I mean, it basically is the same deck that is plaguing Standard right now with Spike Jester and 3 of the 3 of the 1-drops. So a total of 12 1-drops and whatnot. And then you just finish them off with your Hasters, your Lightning Strikes, and things like that. But then I've got some interesting little budget decks there. I do have an Angelic Accord deck that actually gets a lot better if you add rares. So that'll be my next deck that I'll probably be doing. So we will be going away from this incredibly aggressive strategy, and I'm going to go back to more of a mid-range combo, maybe even control strategy for playing on a budget. So if you are getting sick of just all the aggro decks, I'm going to try to, usually with a $100 budget though, aggro decks are the way to go because there's so many options with aggro. Usually aggro is cheaper because a lot of the cards are rares and uncommons, rather than if you're going to control in mid-range, a lot of the cards are into the mythic and expensive rare range, like Corsair of Crufix, that are sitting at like 18 bucks. So it's hard to brew budget around any sort of mid-range strategy in green that uses Corsair of Crufix, or in blue that starts to use cards like Sphinx's Revelation. So a lot of times I kind of get pigeonholed to competitive decks with aggro, and if you are kind of getting sick of that, I will have a lot more of these budget decks that do not fall under the aggro archetype coming up. One of my other one is a black-green Strength of the Fallen deck, which is incredibly fun and incredibly swingy. And I'll showcase that in the upcoming weeks as well. And then I also have an Invix Cyclops deck, which you've already seen, which I won't won't be using that again for a while, as I've done it for playing on a budget numerous times. Probably 4 times that I've done on playing on a budget. Once for Pauper, and I believe 3 times in the very standard. So I won't make you guys suffer through another Nivik Cyclops build. But so yeah, we have some cool upcoming budget decks. Really looking forward to M15. Have a Johnny's Primate, which 100% I'll show you what a Johnny's Primate is. I should be bringing up these cards to show you, but Johnny's Primate's being reprinted. Johnny's, there we go. And I guarantee I'll be able to make budget decks with this guy. This guy's known as the White Tarmogoyf. I agree with that assessment, as in Modern, especially in like Soul Sisters, he begins to outclass the Goyf as it gets huge. And I think in Standard we already have the pieces ready for Johnny's Primate. Yes, some of them are quite expensive, but I do think that making a budget deck, like the very first card that I really want to test it out with is like Tithe Drinker. I think that'll go great within a Johnny's Primate. They're both very aggressive, both great 2-drops. And then White has a bunch of 1-drops that are lifelink as well. I don't think people have already talked about like Nyx. Well, the Ram. Nyx Born Ram. Is that what it's called? Let's look up Ram, then I'll probably find it. See if I even have any on this. Nope. That's probably what's up. The Nyx Fleece Ram. But I really don't like with the Johnny's Primate. You're trying to go like an aggressive strategy. But anyway, I'll talk about those when they come into fruition. This week, though, I hope you enjoyed this list. This has been Kevin with GatheringMagic.com. Thanks for watching.